Wonderful. So this is a panel about Lightning Network. Before we chime in, I just want to make sure everyone knows or understands basically what Lightning Network is. Please raise your hand if you do know about Lightning Network. Okay, but not everyone, so I don't know. I will start with brief introductions, and then I will ask our guys to just make a simple explanation of Lightning Network, right? So my name is Alena Vranova. I was the co-founder of Satoshi Labs and Trezor, the hardware wallet. Now I'm working as a head of strategy for Casa. Casa is one of the participants in developing Lightning Network, basically creating Casa nodes, a plug-and-play device for everyone to be able to run the Lightning Network. To my right is Wojtek Shimetka. He works with several projects in the blockchain space, but one of them is RSK, Rootstock. And Rootstock basically is implementing a competing solution to the Lightning Network, which is called Lumino, or rebranded to... It's Lumino still? Okay, I am but I hope you can explain a little bit later how does it compare to Lightning Network. And to my left, it's Thomas Vogtlin, developer or core developer of Electrum and a lot of new tools around Electrum. And then to the left, Alex Petrov. Are you a CTO? CEO of Lightning Peach, previously with Bitfury.
I'm CEO. I'm Chief Information Officer of Bitfury. The Lightning Peach is one of the product was also Bitfury was developing, and they also did a lot just to make this SegWit possible, and SegWit working like a huge platform, allowing extension and building also Lightning by itself. And Bitfury was also helping to make the first implementation of Lightning as well. They did a lot, and they're still developing the product. So there is multiple companies developing the Lightning right now, Lightning implementation. They agreed about keeping one standard for Lightning to keep all the versions and all implementations compatible between each other. This is a great point if you would like to build a new technology. And the Lightning also existing in commercial version for our commercial customers. They also trying to implement the simplest way to start using the Lightning, because it's still very technological thing. Not a lot of people understand how to use it. You should understand and put a lot of numbers just to open the payment channels, and they're trying to make it as much simple as possible.
Alex, but when you have the mic, just keep it, please, and try to explain for the ones that are not familiar with Lightning, what it actually is in 2 words, 2 sentences, maybe.
So I'm not able to explain like in 2 sentences, but they always trying to build the analogies, even then they meeting the absolute new technology. There is no absolutely analogies one-to-one from the old technologies for new technologies. They are different. But if you're comparing the blockchain and Bitcoin, so it's practically a little bit more complex thing. It's not a currency. It's also infrastructure. It's also a messaging system. And the Visa and the Master, they are not the money by itself. It's just the transport. The Lightning is approximately the same transport. It's allowing you to perform the payments, but much faster and much cheaper because of the technology. If Visa and Master can perform payments in seconds, the Lightning is about the microseconds. And the difference approximately, it's like 10,000 times faster. And it's also cheaper. Because comparing to Visa and comparing to Master, there is no offices, there is no employees, there is no any additional services and channels between the banks. It's pure mathematics. It's working faster. It's working 24/7. It doesn't have any weekends, and it doesn't have any additional expenses.
Alex,
faster and cheaper.
you're doing like the complete overall shield of Lightning, which is great. But I'll come one step back and say Lightning Network is basically a layer 2 on top of Bitcoin. It has the benefits and the downsides of the technology that's underlying, but it's trying to tackle with some downsides of like the transaction capacity of the basic Bitcoin layer. So whatever is happening on the Lightning Network is secured by the Bitcoin layer, but is basically solving the problems of transaction capacity. I want to dive in like why you guys are interested and why you're building Lightning. What is your motivation to do so? Because I mean, everyone in the system is looking from a different point of view. I will start with myself if you don't mind, ladies first. My motivation is that my understanding of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin for me is not just a new form of online payments or internet money. I believe that beyond the price hype of Bitcoin, there's an actual revolution in computing. Through the way we experience Bitcoin, we can rebuild our systems into more resilient, more secure peer-to-peer networks. And so for me, to build a node that anyone can plug at home and have it run means that we are making this progress towards the new, better, more secure computing. So that's my motivation to be building for Lightning. But what is your motivation? And if you're not building Lightning, don't worry, you're a good person too. But maybe you can explain more about Lumino and maybe compare.
Okay,
Thomas,
should I start?
Please.
So we are implementing the Lightning protocol at Electrum. And so for me, Lightning is primarily a scaling technology so that you don't have the capacity limitations of the blockchain or time chain. But Lightning is actually about time more than the on-chain Bitcoin. So if you are processing on-chain, you are limited in space, but also in time because everything is very slow. Lightning is fast. Lightning has no capacity limitations. Okay, there is routing limitations, but that's something different. There is no theoretical limitation on how much you can send over Lightning. And what was the third thing I wanted to say? Yeah, it's also privacy. It's much better for privacy because you do not have a trail on the blockchain that everybody is going to be able to track forever. So these are the three really aspects of Lightning. And our Lightning strategy at Electrum is to implement the original Lightning protocol. So yeah, we are almost done with this. So the next major release of Electrum will actually be a Lightning client. It's a full implementation in Python of the Lightning protocol.
Can you briefly describe what is the tool set that you're providing and how people or companies or who can actually use what you're building?
We are a wallet. So it's mostly used by end users. I mean, I guess in the audience, a lot of people told me yesterday that they use Electrum, or they have used Electrum at some point in their experience with Bitcoin. So we are providing this for everybody, not just companies.
For my mom?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. I mean, the challenge for wallet development is really to make the user experience simpler. But I think that Lightning is also going to remove some of the limitations of Bitcoin. Like, for example, the fact that you have to wait until your transaction is confirmed. This is going to disappear with Lightning. And it's going to make the UX a lot better. So your mom will no longer have to wonder, what does it mean that my transaction is not confirmed?
And that I cannot spend the money that just came in. On the main chain, like on the on-chain transaction, sometimes people get confused because they receive Bitcoins, they buy Bitcoin through an ATM, they want to buy a coffee and they're not able to do so. Why? Because they're waiting for the confirmations and then...
obviously. You have to wait for, depends on the amount, yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So
it's me now.
It's you now, please.
So we're not building stuff for moms. What we're doing is we're we're actually building stuff for developers. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with RSK. Who heard about RSK? Okay. So that's for those who don't know, this is Ethereum virtual machine on top of Bitcoin. And so that's layer 2, we call, and then we have a third layer, which is, let's say, a business infrastructure for businesses. So this includes payments, this includes identity, decentralized storage, and a number of services like that. And today I'm here to talk mostly about Rift payments, and the first implementation that we have right now, which is Lumino. So,
how can you compare Lumino to Lightning? Is it comparable?
Yeah, it's quite similar. So Lumino is compatible with Raiden network. It works very similarly to that. So essentially, again, you have a network where you put deposits into smart contracts in this case, not into multisigs. And then you have a network where you exchange checks and route them through the network. Similar to Lightning. Sorry, hearing myself too much here. So in that case, it's very similar technology. It's just maybe a little bit more flexible because you can actually leverage the smart contracts and you can actually build additional logic and maybe send more than just Bitcoin. Maybe you can even send states. You can send, I believe you call them shitcoins here, but we call them altcoins. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm sure there's a lot of businesses here, people that are trying to look for use cases and new revenue streams. So what is your current business model? Or if you don't have a revenue model, that's fine. But what is the typical, first of all, markets that could adopt this technology? And what would be the nice business models, for people to make money of this?
So like any company, yeah, we definitely have a business model because we would like to create the product and also we are thinking about the revenue. But the main idea also to create and deliver the better technology for all the humanity and like helping for people to better understand the SegWit, they doesn't get any profit, helping developing like the Lightning by itself on initial phases, they doesn't get any profit. Bit4e was also designed the routing protocol when no one was even thinking about the routing in Lightning, and it's take a lot of time. It's take also a lot of idea. We was also using a lot of the things what we was developing for Internet of Things, because the Internet of Things is a huge amount of different devices, and routing between them is very complicated. But Lightning Pitch is exactly about creating the open source product for developers to make them life much easier and helping them to develop the different products on top of a Lightning. They also created the Lightning wallet, and it's also trying to make the user experience is much simpler, is much more understandable for most of the user, because like any new technology, so then you just developing something, first time it's looking ugly. There's all like bones and all the ribs, they are outside. There is user interfaces really sucks. So in most of the cases you're getting very nice technology, but the user interface is very ugly. And for Lightning, it's still, even when you open the channel, you need to enter a lot of data like private keys, generating the channel ID numbers, and so on. The Lightning Pitch offering you much easier way how to establish the channel. You can find the parties, you can find the all information about the channels, all numbers. You doesn't need to enter any additional details. You're just clicking, I would like to choose the channel, I would like to open it. It's help you to exchange the keys to get all the data more easily and more transparently for a user.
Like, I think that's a great topic, like the UX, general UX, and I will come back to it later. But what I was interested in was, where are the business models for companies to adopt Lightning Network, and where can you make money or any other benefits out of adopting Lightning Network?
So they're helping to integrate Lightning in existing business solution. They have implementation for Paytomat. They're performing like payments between customers and merchants. They help them to integrate the Lightning, and right now you can pay in San Francisco for a coffee using the Lightning, using multiple different currencies. You can also perform the atomic swaps between different currencies, changing, for example, Bitcoin for Litecoin immediately, instantly.
If the currencies are capable of atomic swaps.
Sure. There is users and merchants, they are offering the deals, and if deals is matching, so you're getting the swaps one to another one. So they have also integration in vending machines, and they also built the coffee machine, which accepting the Lightning payment in our office. And this also help the developers to better understand the technology because they're touching this technology each day. They see how it's working, and they better understand what they can improve in this technology. They also performing integration for exchanges, and you can deposit your funds on the exchanges using the Lightning Network instantly, and instantly take them back. This providing you better control to performing the deal instead of like keeping your funds on the exchange, then someone is controlling your funds. You can instantly deposit them, perform a deal, so take them back. And this is decreasing risk.
Thomas, any thoughts?
Okay, I mean, I don't know if the question is about the business models of our companies or in general.
In general,
I think
we're here to inspire people.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just answer about my company.
Okay. Cool.
I think it's more important to have a mission than to have a business model. And our mission is to make Bitcoin usable and secure. So Electrum has started as a competitor to websites, and we started to provide a higher level of security. Hi.
You're gonna love me, Timothy.
How you doing?
Oh, bro. In from Istanbul.
In from Istanbul.
Well,
Okay, hold on. We're not cutting your time. Don't worry.
Hi, team.
Tim, we're gonna put you on this side. We're gonna re-centralize. We were decentralized on the side.
You just came into our question about
Is this the,
potential markets for Lightning Network and what are the potential business models. Thomas was about to explain how they deal on their side with Electrum, and then maybe you can grab the mic as well.
No, I figured this is probably the Lightning Network circle jerk, and I figured I'd come in here and disrupt it a little bit.
Yeah,
we'll see how everybody's going.
You managed to disrupt.
Yeah, good.
Can you hear me? Is this working? Yeah. So yeah, I was just saying that we want to provide the better user experience because I believe that the valuation of Bitcoin depends on whether it is usable and secure. And in order to have both security and usability, now I feel that we need to have Lightning. We don't know if it's. To answer your question about business model, I don't think we have a clear picture yet, but I'm sure that there will be new needs, like for example, watchtowers for Lightning. Also, this Bitrefill service is a case that we could also use in my company in order to provide some service to fund initially your channels without even touching the blockchain. So this is the kind of thing that we are thinking about. But in general, I think there is a lot of new business models that are going to emerge just because it will be a much better user experience. So if you have a better user experience, you will have more users. Users will be there, and company will have to follow.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have really good user experience with Bitcoin, but it just hasn't happened yet, right? The last I remember, Adam Back said Lightning Network was 6 months away in 2015. And every time I hear about it, it's 2 weeks away from having something really useful. Right now, there's just...
Our release is 1 month away. It's been so like in the last 6 months.
I hear you. Exactly. It's great. You know, I mean, I was a Bitcoin maximalist for a long time, and I really love the network, but I'm just not so sure that a single protocol is going to rule it all. You know, Bitcoin is definitely a fantastic store of value. Whether or not it's going to be a tradable currency, It's yet to be seen. I mean, I know all the stories. I'm really excited about a lot of the things that are going on. The possibility that we're going to have colored coins on Bitcoin, the possibility that all value is going to be traded on Bitcoin through this magical, mystical Lightning Network. I'm not sure that hash time-lock contracts are the real solution for the world and what the world needs for the oncoming onslaught of securities and all the different methods that other networks are starting to come out with now. That's the one thing I really worry about with Bitcoin is whether or not we're going to get to a point of usability soon enough and quick enough to where these other networks that are starting to come out and exhibit some usefulness, whether or not they're going to come and they're going to eat the lunch that Bitcoin served to the world. So that's one thing I'm worried about.
This is a good polemic to dive into because, I mean, there's still, so we have on one hand the security of the layer one, right? The Bitcoin is a very steady, robust system, and then we're pouring over 900 Bitcoin into the Lightning Network, which we still call reckless. So and insecure, and watchtowers are only coming into play right now. Watchtowers are technology that allow you basically a backup of the state of the channels, right? So people don't lose funds. But so are we still reckless, and how long will we take until we are not in the reckless state anymore? Where will you guys feel comfortable saying that now Lightning is out of beta and the reckless state, and it's actually been successful?
I mean, the problem that I see is that one, there's not much value to running it, right? So you don't extract that much value by running it. It's still very difficult to run.
But do you have value out of some other stuff? Do you have to abstract value out of, earn money on everything that you do?
Maybe, maybe not. But if I'm going to keep my coins on a hot wallet or something in some system where they're active, I'm probably it's a riskier activity. I want to be rewarded for that, right? So that's the thing. You look at systems like MakerDAI. And some people are at least getting value out of putting things onto a system. So right now, it's just such in its infancy, and I'm all for the project. It's fantastic. I too want this to come out. The idea that we can have a second layer on Bitcoin and people can start buying things with Satoshi sounds fantastic. But getting the network usable to where we have tens of thousands, 20s of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people running Lightning nodes, that seems to me like it's a long way away.
Oh, by the way, we already have almost 5,000 nodes on the network and over 35,000 channels. So when you say tens of thousands, we are early, but just since we launched Casa node, for example, late 2018 until now, the network doubled.
Yeah, Casa is fantastic. Jameson's a really awesome.
And you don't need millions of nodes or hundreds of thousands of nodes in order to run Lightning. You can have millions of users and a much smaller number of nodes because most of the channels will be private. They will not be published. So the network could keep its current capacity, in terms of number of nodes, without at the same time expanding to millions of users. That there is no contradiction there.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm all for there being some additional use and some daily spend use back in the Bitcoin network, and I definitely think that's the best use case when it comes to a currency for it right now. So I think it's great, but again, it's still in this beta phase. And whether it's going to ever get out of a beta phase, whether or not it's actually going to get in enough people's hands to where it actually gets into this spendable currency again, or that ship might have sailed. There
is a dilemma between the HODL narrative and the spending narrative of Lightning Network. So how do you see this playing out? Because on one side, we have people staking sats, which means like people are trying to get as many satoshis as possible. But then we are building this like super fast payment routing system, and where we basically expect people to go and just make transactions. So where are we? Is this gonna play out well or not?
Sorry, there is no dilemma. If you cannot spend, you cannot hodl.
And may I also comment exactly these points? So there is natural concurrency in the network. So then you're choosing the payment channels. You can see how much it will cost for you to send the payment. And if someone asking too high price, you can choose more cheaper channel and send it faster. And the people who trying to set like very high price, they will be just pushed out from the network. More optimal price, more efficient solution will work more. And it's also depending how you're sending the payment, because the Lightning and changing a lot of aspects how we invoicing these services. Because right now we getting the invoice once per month. Why? Because for both sides, it's most affordable way just to perform like invoicing once per month. You're receiving the invoice, you paying, they checking does you perform payment or not. Lightning changes this absolutely, because right now you can invoice each second, each minute, and you can pay immediately. It's breaking the granularity of the payment. It's meaning you shouldn't pay like just $1 or 1 cent. You can pay even less. There is one huge illusion also about the Lightning. People are thinking the Lightning is like off-chain solution. It's not. It's existing on-chain. It cannot exist without blockchain. It's staying like just the additional layer, providing just the additional features.
You know, I was going to say, I mean, I really am hopeful for the solution. You know, I don't want for products like Facebook's Libra. I mean, we're talking about programmatic money, and that's what we've always wanted, right? We want to be able to actually send things without intermediaries, without any business in between, and we want to be able to do that in a programmatic fashion. And I hope it's something like Lightning Network, or something on top of a truly decentralized currency, rather than the potential of this corporate cash that's gonna come and get out there. But you're gonna have potentially 2.5 billion users of this other thing. I heard a comment a couple of weeks ago, or about a week ago, whereas if Bitcoin is digital gold, might Libra be the digital dollar? And I hope that it's not. We do have to continue to work on solutions, and I'm glad that people are really active in the Lightning community. You know, CASA is a fantastic project. I'm really excited about that. You know, and everyone else that's working on the project is fantastic. We just need to start moving, and people need to start spending sats.
So usually, you know, people, when they talk about Lightning, they talk about users making payments to companies, for example. But a use case that I'm thinking a lot about, especially in connection with Libra, is companies actually making micropayments to their users. So imagine Facebook and all these ad tech companies are evolved around abusing or using your personal data and selling them forward, right? If we can, in the future, rebuild this system into companies actually, you know, instead of earning from advertising, they can at least share something back to the user. So if for every post or for anything that you are willing to disclose and share to the system, you may get some micropayments, right? I'm thinking along this. Any other ideas?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, this is a way how I got into Bitcoin. I was mining in 2013 on my laptop at university because the electricity was free. Don't tell them that.
Which university?
Insignificant. But very quickly, I actually realized that rather than ruining my hardware, it was much faster for me to watch commercials and be paid in Bitcoin. Those sites completely like disappeared. But at the beginning, I don't know if you remember that, there was a lot of sites where for doing something, watching commercials, you actually were rewarded for that. And it was much bigger use case back then because transactions were actually very cheap.
So you created a bot that was watching advertisements.
Yes.
Great.
But I very much agree with this use case. I think that data are becoming more and more of a commodity. Time is becoming more and more of a commodity. And if you can have a network that can actually pay for that, in terms of minutes, you stand in a queue and you start doing something, and maybe you start, you know, getting value out of just browsing or doing something like that. That's where Bitcoin and cryptocurrency can actually go and can have value.
I predicted there would be a panel on Libra, so there it is. I don't know how Libra is going to work on the technical side, but I can imagine that it will not have the limitations of the blockchain. So it will be probably competing in terms of user experience with something like Lightning. And yeah.
It's more like a DPoS system. I think it all comes down to one of the things I talk about a lot is the fact that you really can't be a maximalist these days, and that we don't have a network that's one. So I'm a developer, and when I look at different projects, I still am looking at newer networks. Bitcoin was the first network to distribute to be a crypto asset on a Byzantine Quorum network. And that's fantastic. We've had other evolutions of Quorum networks as we've gone along. Whether or not we'll go down to one network of value, or will the interledger might have that value itself. We're going to be able to place trust on different networks, and we're going to have different values of trust on different networks. I mean, I work a lot on the EOS network, and I would never trust that with currency or hard asset value. But when it comes to NFTs and gaming assets, all day, it's not a problem. So it's really going to depend on what it is that is transcribed onto the base layer. And are we going to just have one protocol of trust, or are we going to continue to evolve and have many different protocols of trust? So is it going to be like the internet where we just have TCP/IP and everything rolls on top, and that's Bitcoin? And there's a potential for that.
That's what I believe, basically.
Or is it going to be these interledgers where it's possible that you might have different networks of trust in different areas? There are some countries that aren't going to ever be, or for a while, they're not going to be comfortable with a completely decentralized protocol underneath. I spent a lot of time in China, and China's not comfortable with decentralized protocols. So, there's potentially going to be a bridge in between. I mean, I'm a longtime Bitcoiner and really, really believe in what it is, and we need to do a lot of work still. Lightning Network is a good movement forward, but I'd say as a developer to continue keeping your eyes open and continue to look at different things as they come along. Because I remember back in the day when I was set up 10base-T networks with DECnet, no longer are we using DECnet. It was a superior technology, but ultimately the markets have yet to decide. We're still so early on this stuff, and it's going to take a long time for the winner to be to evolve.
Oh, I have so many more, but yes, that's fair. That's a fair remark. Maybe one last, user experience, because that's a big topic. People usually, when I talk to Casanode users, a lot of them do not understand the technicalities, right? So unlike opening a Bitcoin wallet where you just download the wallet and you're able to receive and send money, with Lightning, there's another step. You have to open channels. Now, if you want to send a certain amount of money, the network actually, all the hubs have to have that capacity. And so, there's a million things to solve. But for example, this capacity issue. So we had this proposal of atomic multipath payments that would solve the capacity of individual channels, the problem of that. But it seems that it's really risky. And with every hop, the chance of losing funds of that fraction of the transaction increased by 10%, which is a lot. So now I feel like we're citing from atomic multipath payments, but where do you see this going? Can we solve UX issues with technology? Does it need another soft forks, or how difficult is actually getting to a good UX?
One big moment about the Lightning, it's a speed of payment. So the people are thinking in terms if I'm sending 1 million from source A to source B to destination B, so they're thinking in terms how much in time it will take just to perform one single payment in 1 million, because Lightning is working so fast. It's meaning 1 million, it's just 1,000 transactions sent 1,000 times, and it can be sent using the different routes immediately.
Yes, but what if half of them get lost on the way?
It will not going to work in this way, because then the first time any Lightning dot is failing their customer, they will be out of market. If you're failing, the people never trust you again.
I want to say that Lightning is trustless. The funds do not get lost. what might happen is that your funds get stuck. So you have HTLCs that are temporarily stuck because a node has disappeared, and you might have to solve this in the worst case by closing a channel on chain, but funds do not get lost. Okay.
Okay, thank you for rephrasing stuck. But still, the user experience is not there. But it's fair to give some questions to the audience if you have some, please do.
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick. I mean, there are a couple of attack methods still on Lightning networks. And we haven't solved those yet, right? And so not only the denial of service attacks, which you can still get from this open network that everyone sees, but again, on these channels, you have these people that are running a channel and they might just go offline for a little bit, and your payments get stuck. And what are you going to do? You don't have a reputation score. It's trustless. So, there are these attacks that still have to be figured out. We have to solve. So it's just not done yet.
Yeah, I would go a little bit back to like a higher level and the UX itself. I believe that all these technical problems will be solved over time. But even right now, I think what we can do is we can do a much better job at explaining it using the real world examples that we already have right now. And this is something that very few companies did well in crypto yet. One of them would be, for example, SpankChain, right? And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but they have a payment channel solution as well. And they have, in order to make it very familiar to the users that are clearly not technical, they made this nice abstraction where actually the payment channel is your debit card. And you deposit money on your debit card. And as long as there's money on this debit card, on this channel, then you can pay. And I believe there's a lot of other examples how we can actually do this with the Lightning Network. Even with the stuck money, I believe there's a representation that we can use for that.
There is also some technical improvements that are going to happen in the protocol itself. And also on the first layer, there is a soft fork that is called L2 that should make a lot of things easier for developers, and also is going to make watchtowers a lot more practical. And I mean, yeah, I agree there is a lot of problems, but all the problems you mentioned are problems that can be solved. There is no hard theoretical impossibility there, as opposed to scaling on-chain, which I believe is not reasonable. Sorry, Craig.
Audience, do you have questions? Please.
I'll even stand up. So my secret talk is about Libra. Okay, and I'm not pro and I'm not con. It's just interesting. And you actually very cleverly anticipated one of the points, which is maybe Bitcoin's current maybe the fact that Bitcoin is currently not a complete solution is what's spearing at the regulatory attack that Libra seems to be inviting. Whatever the deficits are in Bitcoin, and we'll go over it, and the audience knows better than I do, maybe that's why they're not getting a letter from Dan Waters, whatever her name is. It's on my slide. From the Senate Finance Committee. Maxine, thank you. So, is it? And then I was having a conversation with Giacomo there. Or actually with Tone. Like, did Satoshi maybe build that in, like this kind of crippled phase, so that it would get accepted slowly before the regulators had a chance to strike?
You say time is on our side.
Well, I guess your point's valid. I mean, maybe Bitcoin not being fully functional is what's saving it right now. Of course, it's hard to shut down because of its nature, but maybe it's giving it a break that Libra's not getting. So maybe you can comment on that.
Yeah, you know what? I try a lot of this stuff, and I've been talking to a bunch of people about actually potentially running a Libra node. And as a old school cypherpunk guy, not something I really am interested in a worldwide, but it's an interesting experiment. And I think they're going to take a brunt of the attack from global, governments. I mean, this is going to be a big problem. I mean, they're not going to let them do this. I don't think at all. I don't think that this is going to pass in America. I think the EU is going to stop them. So they're going to come at it, and they just turned over a rock and found a big hornet's nest. And I don't know what that's going to do to the entire community, which might be better for the completely decentralized networks, right? And you might be right. I mean, the slow step is this Trojan horse. And that no one expected, and we've been this Trojan horse. We've been this small asset class that no one's paid attention to. But the same time, fragility that we've exhibited over the last 10 years has allowed us to continue to grow, but not get on anyone's real watch list. I mean, they're yelling at us from using too much power, and that's about it. Other than that, we're just a bunch of hobbyists, toying around. Libra's going to come out, and they're going to come swinging. And I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but I'm glad that they're spending their money on the legal battles. And they're probably going to go ahead and get away with it in a bunch of the smaller countries. And we're going to know, we're going to have to go to a better education job to people, letting them know why they don't want to let 100 corporations run all of the money in the world. So ultimately, the message of Bitcoin, the message of decentralization still has to be heard louder than ever now. We do not need to sit down here. I'm happy that they're going to take out some of these fights. They're going to be spending a lot of money on this. I don't think it's going to go as quickly as they assume it's going to go, but it is bringing the concept at least into mind.
Well, I think to Elena's point, I think it was maybe there's a separation between the money function of store of value and the money function of using it to buy things. I'm not sure that they're 100% the same thing. And maybe Bitcoin is a store of value. And if that's true, is Lightning the right approach to be taking?
Here's the thing, Lightning is not Bitcoin only. I think it's a misconception. It is using the Bitcoin layer, but you can transact basically anything. So there are some Bitcoin maximalists that, say Lightning Network, but Lightning, to be honest, can carry different assets.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Got it.
Not very safely right now.
Yep, but the Lightning working also like a bridge between different assets, and this also expanding the market. And I know the Zuko is like maximalist of Bitcoin, but real economy, the global economy, it consists from smaller economies, and the smaller economies, they have their own requirements. The bonus cards, if you like eating the steaks, it's also a small economy, but it doesn't require Bitcoin. It has absolutely different requirements. It can perform all the transaction much slower, much cheaper, and it's absolutely have all the chances to exist and survive. What the Libra did for a Bitcoin, it's show and trigger like huge flag what the cryptocurrencies is not just a toy. Mm-hmm. The big companies understanding what the value of all the cryptocurrencies and all the solutions has, and they trying to build the different solution on using different approach. But the market is still passing through educational phase just to understand what is a good point, what is more high cost, more valuable point. It should understand there is a weak point, what is a worst point, and looking like they're trying to make the mistake. Yes, they will attract a lot of user, and this is a big plus. But maybe they also are going to realize what the centralization, what all the regulation is a huge issue what they are going to face. And then it will show all the pluses and all the benefits of a Bitcoin. It will show also all the pluses of a Lightning Network, because right now the regulation institution, they also ETF, they doesn't understand how Lightning is working. They are trying to ask all the Lightning nodes to provide all the information about the payment, but this is not. The same way they can ask the internet channels or phone channels to provide all information about the payment. This is not possible. Lightning's nodes, they doesn't have and they doesn't understand what the nature of the payment, who sent that money. Only sender and only receiver know all the information about the payment. And Lightning also providing the privacy. But the Bitcoin also combining and providing much bigger amount of features. It can be transparent on one side, and it can be also private on another one side. If you're trying just to build the private money, you're just delivering the half of solution. It doesn't have a transparency. For big companies, the transparency is also providing the additional benefits.
I think you wanted to add? No. All right, let me. I was going to open up to the floor, but it sounds like you got something rocking to say.
I actually have a completely opposite point of view. I think that the slow creeping of Bitcoin becoming more and more stable is worse than just Libra coming in and having this kind of wall feedback. Because I'm coming in from the humanitarian perspective, and in the places in the third world countries where this technology can actually help the most, the regulation is being driven by actually the first world countries that are starting to implement AML and KYC and all these kind of stuff. And for me, this is a race, and it's a race between showing a real use case that is positive versus positive use case versus showing a use case that maybe is not positive, and this is being driven from the first world countries, which actually don't need this technology maybe as much. And very often there's an argument that Bitcoin and blockchain is used to finance terrorism.
That never happens. No one's ever paid for ransomware.
Exactly.
Yeah, using Bitcoin.
Yeah.
All right, I want you guys to stay for the Libra conversation. I don't want this to make the Libra discussion this time, including you, sir, Mr. Bitfury.
It's exactly about the Libra. So
you respect my authority as MC. I feel it. I feel the respect, buddy.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's anyway related also for Bitcoin. So the one of the points. So the Bitcoin already have history for 10 years. A lot of people was spending a lot of time just to write the code. And
Correct.
If some commercial company are trying to implement something similar, it's again against the time. They doesn't have time. This problem doesn't have a solution like if you would like to deliver like baby in 1 month, you should hire 9 women. So it doesn't work in this way. So even if any company have a lot of money, a lot of developers, they cannot write the ultimate new solution in couple of months. There is a lot of mistakes will be done. Bitcoin already did all these mistakes and already fixed them and already find the better solution. Libra should spend at least 5-10 years to deliver something what will be safe, useful, and they will make definitely a lot of mistakes. Any other company who would like to create something similar, they can use some experience, but anyway, they will make some mistakes, and it's again about the time.
Okay, pause for a second. Lightning-related questions. Sir. Say your name.
Hi, Federico. How do you see the potential problem of centralization? I mean, do you believe that Lightning can scale in a scalable mesh network, or we will end up at some point in a situation where there will be apps that control like large parts of the network? And in the second case, do you believe is an acceptable compromise, or it will destroy the value proposition?
Thank you, Federico. That was one of my questions. I would just add one more additional question. So if we end up with a kind of centralization, as we saw in mining, into huge pools, and we will have these huge hubs, do you also think that these hubs will be targeted, by FATF or similar recommendations, and that these hubs will actually have this legal problem?
Well, that's why centralization is bad, and that's why the Lightning Network will be decentralized. If it becomes too centralized and there is a failure, people will learn not to use nodes that have too many channels.
Yeah, well, we saw some of huge channels like Ellen Big at certain point in time was running over 50% of the entire capacity of the network. I mean, Casa Node has changed that a little bit. I mean, since we launched, we have thousands of users that are running individual nodes. That's fine, but eventually we may get to a point when we will have 5, 10 different big players, capacity providers. Is that an issue or not?
It's going to be an issue in countries like America. You're gonna get slapped with the requirements of being a money transmitter, and that's going to shut a lot of stuff down. I mean, and that's what's going to happen with Libra. And unless we have a network that's really decentralized, that you've got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people running nodes where you cannot whack a mole, then it's all going to come down to a problem with the central organization, central authorities coming down and being able to stop people from running things like this. So again, for me, that is a big question, and making sure that it is a really truly decentralized network is what ultimately is going to help Bitcoin prevail as ideally the currency of the future. If we can't get to there, Libra is going to be doing it better, quicker, but they're going to be under all the regulations, all the rules. They're going to be handing over all the data to anyone who asks for the right amount of money. So it's all about getting these nodes out there, making sure that they're usable and safe. That's what's gonna save, I think, the Lightning Network, the Bitcoin network.
You always has alternatives. So even in Lightning, so there is no way what they will get any centralization. So if any of us can just start a new Lightning node, and if you are able to offer the better services, better speed for a very cheaper price, so you will be more competitive. And if some company is trying to increase the price, they will be just out of the market. It's open market, it's absolutely flexible, it's open source. I think this is the nature of competition. And mentioning also the pools, because I'm also the miner who is representing the mining company here. So the pools are looking like a huge centralization, but there is hundreds of thousands users are staying behind them. If some pool are not acting properly, the people will just switch their hashing power to another one pool. And the same about the mining equipment. So there is even if huge company, they have a lot of hashing power, it's not just a single location. In most of the cases, it's 10 or hundreds different locations, because you cannot get a lot of electrical energy just in one single point.
Good. Thank you. Andreas, we're giving you the last question. So stand. Our speaker is now questioning.
Okay. So because on this discussion of centralization of the topology inside the Lightning Network, I think there's one group of people who already have a very high incentive to run Lightning nodes. It's just the existing on and off ramps onto Bitcoin, because those service providers want to enable their customers to use the cryptocurrency they buy. Obviously, that makes it useful. But on the other hand, I think that's a trap as well, because it means those are exactly those entities who already are conforming to regulatory requirements. So how do we get out of this kind of centralization trap, where we have maybe 5 big service providers, Coinbase, etc., just holding the keys to all the kingdoms to have all the liquidity, and also pushing other players out, because they can simply claim, maybe rightfully, we do conform to authorities. What do we do against this?
Well, a company like Coinbase doesn't. It's custodial, so they don't open channels with their users. As soon as you start to open channel with people, you're no longer custodial.
But the problem is that they already have all the KYC information and your home address and all these things. So that, I think that was the question.
Yeah, but why would they bother opening channel with people if they are custodial? It doesn't make sense for them, because they don't want to create new transactions on the chain.
Because of immediate liquidity. You don't have to wait for confirmations if you have channels open, right? So
If you have an account with Coinbase, you don't have to wait for liquidity. I mean, it's just a number in their ledger. It's off chain already, but it's not trustless.
You mentioned exact points. So the most of the cases, then you're using fiat currency, and you would like to exchange your fiat currency to Bitcoin. So you are using exchange, and the old system and at all points, at the banking side, at fiat currency, they asking to perform all IML and KFC. We are not trying to break the old world and just ruin everything and doesn't follow all the compliances, but more you're using the Bitcoin, more flexibility you get. And if you're sending directly from your wallet payment, so there is no any touch for like any fiat operations or in banking operations. And this doesn't asking from your side even to perform any KFC or any IML and provide all this information. This switching just for a new system.
You know, I could see a day when Coinbase would open up channels to their clients and their customers. I could see a day when they would allow them to have $100, $500, whatever it's going to be in the value, to allow them to have quick channels directly in the second layer. But what we need is we need faster wallets. We need different services like Casa to come out and create these clients on computers very fast, very easily, to where we can have this without these central providers. And so, like how BitTorrent spread, you know, it was just so easy for you to be able to download it and for you to be able to maintain and be able to keep a torrent up on a network. That's what we need the Lightning Network to be like. And there's a really good analogy to that. And if we can make it that easy, then you won't worry about your $50, $100, $200 that you might have on this all the time. And you're happy to provide that service for the network because you know you're doing something better for the community.
Yep, definitely.
And I will say the L word, but it's not a race between Bitcoin and Libra. There is no race because these are two different things.
Yeah, let's leave it there, I would say. That's a good closing.
That's what I was going to say. Give a
Thank
big
you.
round of applause for a wonderful panel. That was very interesting, all about lightning and that other L word, but mainly lightning. Fantastic.